Hi all, welcome back to my channel. My name's Ollie and this is Simply Stitchy. In today's video we're looking at what features you really need on your sewing machine, and we're getting into it right now. Now obviously what you usually sew is going to determine the kind of features that you need on a machine. If you sew a lot of bags or do a lot of free motion quilting, for instance, you might find that you only need a straight stitch, like the sort that you find on a semi-industrial, or on Grandma here, she only does a straight stitch. But why limit yourself? Even bags and quilts can look great with a few decorative stitches on them. Although I have been known to quilt, like on these pot holders for instance, I don't class myself as a quilter. And I'm not really a garment sewist either, although I do sew clothes and collect sewing patterns. My sewing journey started with this little guy. These are just some of his friends. I do have a soft spot for sewing soft toys. I'm a stitcher and I tend to sew whatever takes my fancy, or when it takes my fancy. I don't do sewing plans or know what I'm going to be sewing from one month to the next. I like spontaneity and sewing on the fly, although sometimes flies can be a little bit tricky. But that's a subject for another video. Because I have such a varied interest in sewing, I'm not going to buy a machine that limits me to just one discipline, genre, task. And I don't think you should either, especially if you're a beginner. The thing is, how are you going to know what functions you need if you don't even know what you like sewing yet? Now I've got a few sewing machines, it has to be said, and I don't sew with all of them, but the ones that I do use regularly, like the Singer Simple, Jerome, Grandma over the back here, and my Singer 476, have to be able to tackle whatever I fancy sewing next. They all have the features and the functions, or at the very least the gadgets, that enable them to be able to do those basic functions that can carry out any home-based sewing task. So what are they? What are the features that you actually need on a sewing machine to be able to sew anything that you feel like? The absolute minimum you need on any sewing machine is the straight stitch. On the Singer Simple, that's shown by this stitch here. On the Janome, it's this stitch. Now on most computerised machines you'll find that it's stitch number 1. On machines like Grandma, it's the only stitch they've got. Next up, the ZigZag stitch, which on computerised machines you're looking at this one from stitch number 5. On the Singer Simple, it's here. The thing is, if you've got a machine that can do a zigzag stitch, you're guaranteed pretty much that it can do twin needle stitching, because if it's a zigzag machine it's going to have a foot and a hole in the needle plate that's big enough to take 2 needles. This foot is Grandma's foot, and if I bring it in a little bit closer for you, you'll see, hopefully if I can get it the right way around, that the hole in the actual foot is really small. And if we compare that to the foot on the Singer Simple, it's got quite a large gap. If twin needle stitching is going to be something that's important to your sewing adventures, you're going to need to make sure that at the very least you go for a more modern machine to make sure that there's a big enough hole. A lot of the older machines just don't have that space. The next thing that you want to be looking at is the selection of feet that it comes with. The Janome comes with quite a good selection of feet, and they all fit nicely in the top of the machine. There's even more in the accessory tray. Better still, the Janome, or Jerome as I call him, comes with a standard foot that has the handy little black bump jumper button at the back. If you contrast that with a Singer Simple, you get the normal standard foot, and in the accessory tray you get the buttonhole foot, and that's it. Which brings us neatly on to the next feature that you'll find that your sewing machine needs, and that's the ability to do buttonholes. Now with the Singer Simple, you've got what's known as a 4-step buttonhole, which means basically to do a buttonhole you put it on the buttonhole setting. That's step number 1, number 2, number 3 and then number 4. So basically to do a buttonhole on this machine, every time it does one side you have to manually flick the dial over to the next stage. The Janome on the other hand is a 1-step buttonhole. All these across here from 16 all the way through to 22 are different styles of buttonhole, and all you have to do with the Janome excuse me, select the number for the buttonhole you want, push it, and the machine will do all 4 steps on that one button press. So that's a 1-step buttonhole. Now this next feature, which is incredibly useful on your sewing machine, isn't just great for garment sewers, but it's also good if you're making bags, and that's the free arm. If you take the accessory tray off the machine, you're left with this bit, which is known as the free arm, and you can put round objects that you're sewing around here, and it just makes it that little bit easier to sew them together. The Singer Simple has also got a free arm, and it's here. Not central like the one on the Janome. If I turn this around to that side for a minute, you'll see that it's actually offset to the back of the machine. The next feature is a bobbin that's easy to get to. Now the kind of machines I like have what's known as top loading bobbins or drop-in bobbins, and basically what that means is that the bobbin is literally just there right on the top of the machine. Now both the Singer Simple and the Brother LS2125i are what's known as front loading machines, which means the bobbin lives behind the accessory tray. Now the thing that you've got to watch with front loading bobbins is that you've got an easy off and on accessory tray, because the last thing you want to be doing is fighting with it when your bobbin runs out and you need to change it. Now if we compare that to the Singer Simple for a moment, you see how easy that is? Another must-have feature, especially in today's world of sewing machines, is this button here. That's the reverse button, and on the Simple it's here. Now that we've looked at the features that are a must-have, let's take a look at some of the ones that are nice to have. The first thing that I'm going to mention here is this is the top cover on the Janome, and you get this on quite a few modern sewing machines these days, and what I'm going to point out is it's got a menu of all the different stitches that are available on this machine, and it's also got diagrams to show you how to not only thread the bobbin but also the main part of the machine as well. That is incredibly useful because it means you don't have to keep digging the manual out. One of the features that you can get on computerised machines in particular, like this one, Jerome, is decorative stitches. Now a lot of people think that they're just there as added extras that you're never going to use, but the thing is, the decorative stitches do give you the opportunity to do embellishments on garments or quilts or whatever you happen to be sewing, and you also get obviously a fair selection of buttonholes as we've already covered, but you also get nice little designs, like you've got a heart design there, you've got an overlocking stitch there, so actually they are more use than not really. Now both these machines, the Singer Simple and Jerome here, they may be different levels of machine and they've got different price points, but what they've both got in common is actually that little gadget, which is the automatic needle threader. Now I do take a little bit of an exception of the fact that it's called an automatic needle threader when it isn't. You do have to manually engage it, and you do have to manually make sure that the needle's in the right place to enable it to work. But it does make life a lot easier, so you don't have to thread the needle by hand and eye. Of the two machines, the Janome is the only one that's got these two features that make life a lot easier. You've got a variable speed control, which allows you to either sew really slowly or at full speed, which makes it a lot easier to control because you're not relying on what pressure you put on your foot pedal. The other thing that this one's got is the needle up down button, which basically you push it, the needle goes down, you push it again, the needle comes up. Makes life a lot easier than having to continually turn the balance wheel or hand wheel. Now, there are a lot of people that say that beginners particularly should get a mechanical sewing machine, and what they mean by that is one that doesn't have a computer built into it. The thing is, if you've got a sewing machine, then it doesn't really matter if it's mechanical or it's got an inbuilt computer, because the actual bit that sews, that goes up and down and makes the stitches, is mechanical on both of them. The only difference you get between the two is the ease of use, and the difference, it's a bit like the difference between going from a manual car to an automatic. With a manual or a stick shift, you have to change gear yourself. With the automatic, it does it for you, and that's the thing. If you go for a computerised model, all you're going to be getting is easier to use features. Okay, so now we've looked at some of the features that are a must-have, or at least I think they're a must-have, and we've looked at some of the features that are a nice to have. Let's look at some of the machines that will actually give you those features. Now, I've had a look through, and these are my top tip recommendations for machines that you can use that will help you or enable you to sew whatever home-based sewing task that you want to do, whether it's stuffed toys, curtains, clothes, quilting, you name it. You should be able to do it with these machines. First up, obviously, Singer Simple, fantastic first beginner level machine. The Singer HD 4452 is the next step up. It's got a slightly better motor, so it's going to be able to cope with slightly heavier use, and by that I mean more use and with heavier fabrics. In the same vein, you've got the Janome HD 3000. If you're looking at an entry-level computerised machine, I would have recommended Jerome here, but he's discontinued, which is a bit of a shame. But the nearest equivalent I could find is either the Brother CS6000i or the Janome 740 DC. Both are fantastic machines and a good introduction to computerised sewing. If you're a little bit more advanced, slightly intermediate level maybe, the Singer Quantum Stylist 9960 is a really good all-round machine. It comes with its own little extension table, which helps you work on those larger projects just that little bit easier, which is incredibly useful if you're a quilter. If you're a really serious stitcher, these next two will be right up your street. You've got the Janome MC 6650, which is Janome's professional level sewing machine. It tends to be a little bit pricey. It comes in at around about $1,600, but if you compare that to a machine of the same price, like the Juki 2020 PE, which I think stands for Platinum Edition, the Juki is a straight stitch only machine. The Janome, you've got the lot. It's got straight stitch, it's got decorative stitches, it's got zigzags, it can do buttonholes, you name it. And then the very top of the list, the Janome Continental M7. Now I think that one you can only get from your local Janome retailer, and it is a little pricey, but oh wow, what a machine. If you've got a local Janome retailer, go and have a look at one of those and you'll see what I mean. It is awesome. Now don't worry about trying to remember all those sewing machine names, because what I'll do is I'll put a link to all of them in the description box below for you. There'll be Amazon affiliate links because I'm an Amazon affiliate. I get a little bit back for whatever you buy through those links. It doesn't cost you any extra at all. You don't have to use those links, you don't even have to buy the sewing machines or anything from Amazon. I'm going to put a link into the description box for an online retailer for sewing machines called sewingmachineplus.com. On there you'll be able to find all of these machines and others besides, so you'll be able to compare them and find a machine that will suit your sewing needs best. Again, I'm an affiliate for sewingmachineplus.com. You don't have to use those links if you don't want to, but it would help me out if you do. Hope you liked today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Why not go check out some of the other videos I've got on my channel with these links that will be coming up here anytime now. And why not subscribe to my channel and click the little bell so that YouTube can let you know when I upload another one. In the meantime, whatever you're saying, whatever you're sewing it with, embrace your creativity and have fun. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.